Why is it that publicly we're getting pushed a much more submissive, much more agreeable, much more effeminate man, and yet it seems in erotica, like revealed preferences, stated preferences, why do they seem to be diverging?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in a sense, you kind of captured it with the pushing aspect of it, right? Like that there is a there can be a social agenda in not maybe wanting men, or at least not wanting some men to be more aggressive. And we often see sort of like, at least recently, a sort of like negative view of masculinity in general, right? Like this idea that, well, masculinity is toxic, or that, men need to be different, which also doesn't really jive well with the view that some people have that men and women are not different. It's like, well, if they're not different, then why are you worried about this? Aren't you worried about toxic femininity? I mean, it is an interesting question, but I think that as you point out, if the point of that kind of erotica is to fulfill the fantasies of women are not about generally men that they can push around. They're about men that are useful if the world comes to an end. It's the things that historically and ancestrally women valued in men. Is he going to be a good provider? Is he a good protector? Is he going to, take care of my kids? Is he going to give my kids good genes that are going to make them strong?
What would you say?
Things are the ideal of the cover.
What would you say to the women that are saying to you, well, Catherine, that's a old, antiquated view of what women want from men? Have we not transcended that now in the new world? I'm perfectly happy if my boyfriend decides to paint his nails and wear pearls and put a dress on. This is something now where I don't think that you're up with the times here.
Sure. I mean, I would say that, whatever floats your boat, right? Like, I mean, if it works for you, for your partner to be like that, that's also perfectly fine. There may be variation between women in that. But years ago, they really tried to push the softer, gentler, kinder view of guys in romance novels, and they didn't sell well. And my guess is they didn't sell well because even if in your daily life, it might be easier to have a guy that would do whatever you wanted, no matter what, that might not be what you fantasize about. Right? I mean, if we think about what is really appealing to us, in the same sense that, of course, men may fantasize about women that they would never get in real life. Right? If you think about the reality of things, if you're an unattractive male who is older and doesn't have any resources, you're not going to get the average porn star. But that doesn't mean that that's not what floats your boat.
So it is almost a kind of not short-term mating strategy thing, but it is an object of sexual desire that may not match up with what you would want as a long-term partner. There may be some differences there that women have.
Well, may not be what you might want, but also might not be what you can get, right? Yes, as well. I think that that's part of it, because I think that every girl who goes to a romance novel convention would be happy to have one of the cover models go home with her and stay there. But, there are also, there are pros and cons to highly masculine men, right? I mean, and there's often been this debate about, when you look at even the hero in the romance novel, I mean, he's a very manly guy, but there is that issue. Is he a cad or is he a dad? And even when he starts out as a cad, he usually ends up as a dad. That's not always the way it is in real life if you find that guy, right? So there's always going to be that compromise of what are the features that you would ideally like in your day-to-day life. And some of it may be that. Some of it also may be just what's happening in the population, right? There's always been this discussion about whether testosterone levels have decreased and that men actually are somewhat less masculine than they used to be in some ways. And some of it may be just like, okay, well, this is what we have and this is what we're going to work with.
What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that, then press here for the full, unedited episode. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.